When Sam Pittman was hired at Arkansas back in 2020, I was skeptical. I didn't think that an offensive line coach could ever cut it in the SEC West, but Sam Pittman has proved us all wrong, and Arkansas football is in a good spot. They broke out in 2021, led by their star quarterback KJ Jefferson and superstar receiver Treylon Burks. Last year we saw Jefferson have another insane season to go alongside their star running back Rocket Sanders. 2023 though is a huge year for the program. Jefferson will be back once again, Sanders will be back once again, and in my opinion this team deserves a lot of hype. But can Arkansas get over the hump? Can they win 10 games this year? Can they truly compete in the SEC West? And how good will the Razorbacks be? Those are the questions we're going to answer in today's video. But before we get started, be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new and love college football content, and turn on post notifications so you never miss when I upload. Now, let's talk about Arkansas football. So going back to last year, Arkansas started out with considerable amount of hype. They were ranked number 19 in the country, and in week 1, they played against number 23 Cincinnati. The Bearcats were fresh off a college football playoff appearance, and this was one of the best games of week 1. Unfortunately, the game wasn't ultra exciting, and while Arkansas did win 31-24, it didn't have quite the fireworks I was expecting. Still a good start for Arkansas though. In week 2, they'd play against South Carolina, and led by Spencer Rattler, the Gamecocks didn't really stand a chance in this one. Arkansas put up 44 points and won this game pretty easily. They advanced to 2-0. After that, they played Bobby Petrino in Missouri State, and the game was closer than you probably would have thought, as the Razorbacks only won 38-27. They started out 3-0, but week 4 was a huge test. They go over to Jerry's World and play against number 23 Texas A&M, and this game was a thriller. It went back and forth, but eventually, the Aggies won 23-21, giving Arkansas their first loss of the season. Things wouldn't get much easier, as the following week, number 2 Alabama would come to Fayetteville. In this game, Jefferson somewhat struggled, and despite Bryce Young getting hurt, Jalen Milroe and Jahmyr Gibbs both had big games and led Alabama to a 49-26 win, despite the game actually being close for a while. Arkansas had another loss. After that, they played on the road against number 23 Mississippi State, and this game did not go according to plan either, as it was the worst loss of the season, losing 40-17. After that 3-0 start and climbing to number 10 in the country, Arkansas is now 3-3. It wasn't great, and it didn't look like things were getting any easier. They ended up going on the road to BYU and won that game 52-35, which was a statement win. After that, they went to Auburn, who was struggling mightily at the time, and managed to win by 2 touchdowns. Those were 2 crucial victories. Except, every time they took 2 steps forward, they took 2 steps back. Hugh Freeze's Liberty Flames would come to Razorback Stadium, and they ended up knocking off the Razorbacks 21-19. In my opinion, Liberty's a good team, but they should never go into an SEC school and win. This was embarrassing for Arkansas. After that, they played against number 7 LSU, and despite that game being close, Harold Perkins literally willed the Tigers to a win, and Arkansas lost again. Now the team was 5-5, and they would need a win to get to a bowl game. They ended up knocking off number 14 Ole Miss, who was sort of in free fall mode at that time, and got to their 6th win. After that, they go on the road to Missouri, who for some reason Arkansas can't seem to beat, which surprises me as a Mizzou fan, and it was no different last year, as Mizzou won 29-27, getting Mizzou to a bowl game and leaving Arkansas with a 6-6 record. They'd end up making the Liberty Bowl, where they had a thrilling game against Kansas. There was a controversial call at the end, but Arkansas won 55-53 in triple overtime. The team went 7-6, and after that 3-0 start, that was very disappointing, but it could have been worse. But what does this year look like? They return a lot of last year's talent, and this team should be better. So taking a look at their roster, they're obviously going to return KJ Jefferson. He's one of the best quarterbacks in school history, and last year he passed for 2,600 yards and 24 touchdowns, and had nearly 700 more yards on the ground with 9 scores there. He's an impact player, he knows what he's doing, and he has got to elevate the team this year. He'll have a little bit of help though, as Raheem Sanders is back. Nicknamed Rocket Sanders, last year he ran for 1,443 yards and 10 touchdowns. He quickly became one of the best running backs in the SEC, and I expect him to once again have a huge season, and those two have to step it up and have to put up big numbers. They brought in Jacoby Criswell from North Carolina at quarterback, and also signed a big-time recruit in Malachi Singleton. I'm really excited for both of those players, but Jefferson is the guy. In terms of their transfer portal haul, they got a couple of really talented players as well. They grabbed one of the top receivers in Andrew Armstrong, grabbed former 4-star corner from Baylor, Lorando Johnson, former big-time Mizzou defensive lineman Trajan Jeffcoat, former 5-star Georgia corner Jaheim Singletary, and one of my favorite players, Varkey's Gums, a tight end from North Texas. In terms of that running back spot, you're obviously going to have Rocket, and then behind him, you should have Rashad Dubinion and then AJ Green. The wide receiver spot is where things get interesting, as they lost their 2 top players to the NFL, most notably Jaden Hazelwood. At wide receiver, I think the 3 starters are going to be Andrew Armstrong, the transfer, Isaiah Sategna, and Jaden Wilson. You're also going to have guys such as Tyrone Broden, Bryce Stevens, Davion Dozer, Chris Harris, and Sam Mbake. The fact that I barely know any of these players says something, and that is definitely, in my opinion, going to be the biggest weakness of this team. On the offensive line, it should be Devon Manuel, Brady Latham, Bo Limmer, Joshua Braun, and Patrick Kutas. I trust Sam Pittman there, and I don't have any worries about the offensive line. The defense is typically pretty good for Arkansas, but losing Jalen Catalon was a big deal. On the defensive line, I love John Morgan III and Trajan Jeffcoat, and even Landon Jackson. At corner, you're going to have Dwight McGlovern, who's one of the better returning corners in the SEC, and I also love their linebacker Antonio Greer. Losing Drew Sanders and Bumper Poole is also a big deal, but all in all, Arkansas should be completely fine on defense. They have a star quarterback with a lot of experience, a really good running back, a good offensive line, and a stout defense. The big question for me is who the heck is going to catch the passes, but that's something that I'm sure Pittman is working on and won't be too big of an issue as the season goes on. But what does their schedule look like, and how many wins should we expect for Arkansas? Let's take a look. Well, when you take a look at their schedule, in week 1 they're going to play Western Carolina. That game should be over before the first quarter, and if not, they're in big trouble. In week 2, they're going to play against Kent State, which is a step up, but once again should not cause Arkansas any problem. The first decently big game of the season for them will come in week 3 against BYU. BYU will have quarterback Keaton Slovis, and they're typically pretty decent, so this game should be competitive, but Arkansas will win because they're at home. Put them at 3-0. Week 4 steps up in a big way as they go on the road to LSU. Harold Perkins terrorized Arkansas last year, and I expect him to do the same thing. This game will truly be a test to see if Arkansas is ready to take that next step, but unfortunately, I don't think they will be, and I think LSU is going to win by at least a touchdown or 2, but it should be an entertaining game. After that, they get to play in Dallas against Texas A&M, and after what happened last year, I fully expect Arkansas to come and win this game. I also think they're better. That'll put them at 4-1, going into their road matchup with Ole Miss. I'm not as high on the Rebels as most people this year, as I think they're going to take a step back, and honestly, I'm going to go a little bit gutsy and say Arkansas wins on the road. I think it'll be close, but that'll be a big time win, and that will get Arkansas to 5-1. They'll go to Bryant-Denny Stadium to play against Bama, and as much as I'd love to say this game will be competitive, I just don't think it will, as last year's game was an indicator of that, and I think Bama wins by 2 or 3 scores. But who knows? That would give them their second loss of the season, and to close out the year, they have a pretty favorable schedule. They'll get Mississippi State at home, which will be under a new head coach, and with that, and the game being at home, I think Arkansas is going to dominate on the ground and win that game. After that, they go on the road to Florida, and I can't remember the last time those two teams played, so that's going to be somewhat entertaining, and this game kind of scares me. By this time of the year, Florida will either be awful or they'll be putting it all together. They're going to be a pretty similar team to Arkansas this year, as they're going to run the ball a lot, and this game should be close. I listed at 50-50, and honestly, I'm going to say the Razorbacks slip up here, and Florida takes this one. That'll put them at 6-3, but don't worry. They play Auburn at home, who's rebuilding under Hugh Freeze, and shouldn't be that much of an issue, so I give them the win there. And then they get Florida International, which will also be a win. That'll get them to 8-3 before a huge game against Missouri. No, I don't think Mizzou's an 8 or 9 win team at this point in the year, but it's huge because they have to win it. Arkansas has really struggled against Mizzou, and this is a game he needs to win. It's at home, and I think it's going to happen. I think it'll be close because it always is, but Arkansas will finally pull this one out, and that'll bring the Razorbacks to a 9-3 record. Why do I believe they'll go 9-3? Well, they have a good offensive line, an experienced quarterback, and a star running back. That'll be enough to get you wins in the SEC, and as long as they have a decent defense, they'll be fine. My biggest worry is the wide receiver spot, but as long as you get 1 or 2 guys to step up, and you're not totally one-dimensional, they'll be fine. I have Arkansas going 9-3. At worst, I think 8-4. And their ceiling could be 10-2. But what do you guys think? If you're an SEC fan, what do you think of this? What do you think of my prediction? If you're an Arkansas fan, what did I get right and wrong? And let me know down below. Give me another team I can cover next. Leave a like if you want to support today's video, subscribe if you're new, and check out all my other videos on the end screen. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.